Leading the news, though, is planning, and that's what we're going to talk about now, because in the studio we have got a man from the National Trust and we've got a property developer. Will their views merge or not? Because today the government finally publishes its controversial changes to our planning laws. The aim is to cut red tape and help the economy grow, but Green campaigners say it will be a licence to build. So why are the proposed changes necessary? The population of England is expected to grow by nearly 4.5 million people over the next 8 years. Government estimates say to cope with that, 2 million more homes will need to be built, and 1.3 million of those are going to be outside big cities. Ben Cowell is from the National Trust, and beside him is property developer John Hitchcox, who runs a company called Yo. And Ben, I suppose not all planning is bad. Do you believe in any sort of planning or responsible planning, or what's your views on what's about to be proposed today?
Well, planning is absolutely essential. What we need is a plan-led system, a system that ensures the right development happens in the right places. And what most took us by surprise in the government's draft document was the fact that they were giving too much of a yes to development happening anywhere. Half the country isn't covered by plans at the moment, so we think plans are essential to getting the planning, the development that this country needs and the growth this country needs. Well,
yes, you talk about growth and you talk about stimulus, but a lot of people would see you as standing in the way of that, and organisations like yours. And John Hitchcock, as a developer, a lot of people would see you as the devil incarnate of the countryside. Is it appropriate you're dressed in black today?
Probably. I mean, I've been building homes for 30 years. Each year I see there's a government statistic that comes out that says there's a demand for some 250 homes. At a peak, the country builds that, but we seem to have seen it down at the 100,000 level. Something is clogging up the system, and the idea of easing the planning rules, I think, is a very good one. The question is, where is it going to happen, and how is it going to occur?
And there's all sorts of economic reasons why the house building isn't happening at the volume it used to do, as you know. And so council house building was one of the reasons why we had higher levels of house building historically. At the moment, actually, 80% or more of housing applications go through absolutely fine through the planning system. So there's something that is not, the planning is not the reason why we're not having the house building. There's something else happening. It's to do with the finance markets, it's to do with the economic state of the nation.
Yeah, or a lot of people say it's to do with organisations like the National Trust who would lodge objections. I mean, I suppose the question is, green fields aren't necessarily the only solution. Do you want to see a land where people walk their dogs or where people work? I suppose this is a very dangerous, sensitive time, because once you give this stuff away, you can't get it back again.
Of course, that's the point about greenfields. We need a living, working countryside. We think the priority should be on previously developed sites, the so-called brownfield sites.
Brownfields. Yes. Tell me about brownfields.
Well, we've got an example of a brownfield site which is an old gravel pit in the Cotswolds. We first got involved in it in 1999. It took nearly 10 years to get planning consent. We started.
What did you want to do in that gravel pit?
We've built, we built 6 big lakes, very beautiful big lakes, and we've planted 500,000 trees. We've built houses around the lakes, and the scheme is now off and running.
It's a development.
It's a development.
Yeah.
The point that was, I think, that was most frustrating for us was the process and the time that it took to get planning consent. And we were lucky; we could wait for 10 years.
But there you heard Ben saying there might be other things in the system, like finance, for instance, holding these things up. I mean, you specifically
in my case, it was particularly the red tape, and I think the concept of easing that, particularly at this time now, where
well, your development sounds very tasteful. So, what was the objection? Were you building a motorway to go into it, or
no? I think it was principally environmental impact assessment, highways. It was all the standard procedures, which were time consuming and a lot of form filling.
So you welcome what's going to be proposed.
I think the concept of easing the planning up is a very good one. Do I welcome what's going on today? As I understand it, the idea is to hand it back into the local ward councillors and planners' domain to make these decisions. I'm worried that what's going to happen there is there's going to be a lot of NIMBYism which is going to, dog walkers are going to have much more power, and they're actually going to stop some of these plans.
John's development sounds idyllic, it sounds lovely, and I'm sure it's a high quality development. This happens to be in a place of part of the country that's a very special countryside, and it's special because planning laws have kept it special. And you're talking about a kind of high end of the market development that does take time because it's in a previously developed site. There's lots of habitat to take account of, and these things do take time. The fact is, though, that fewer than 1% of planning applications actually take more than 12 months to resolve. Most planning applications, the vast majority, go through very quickly indeed, and there's no particular problem there. Of course, we want to see reform. The planning system imposes costs, and businesses could always do with more reform.
And Ben, tell me,
costs.
does the National Trust ever fall foul of planning laws?
We deal with the planning system every day of the year, and we actually build houses. We've built nearly 900 homes in the last 10 years. So we engage with the system every day of the year. We work with it, and what we find is if you work with the system, if you get to know the planning officers, if you involve the community, if you engage communities.
So I mean, if you look at your clip earlier, I think generally it's fair to say that when a proposal for a village is proposed, apart from if we deal with all the sustainable issues and all the environmental issues, the local community generally don't want it.
Yeah, and is it fair to say, listening to you two talking, that you could have more in common than keeps you apart, or not?
We spoke last night. We have a lot in common. I mean, I believe in urbanism. I think the concept of sustainable development is it's consumer driven now. I mean, our project here, our customers love it. Things that concern me, for example, is social housing. In how I don't think there are going to be many councils that are going to be advocating, or planning committees that are going to be advocating actually putting large chunks of social housing outside their village.
Well, we definitely need more houses. The planning regulations that are proposed will reduce the targets on local authorities for social housing. So there's a problem there. There's a problem that government have got to grapple with. We're going to be looking very closely at the document that gets published today. We want to see a firm definition of sustainable development and development in the right places.
Thank you both very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.